السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن والاه. Inshallah, before I begin the khatir, I just wanted to also remind everybody that inshallah today we will be continuing our weekly series on the inevitable journey. Inshallah, after Salatul Dhuhr from 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. And today we'll be discussing the life of al-barzakh, the life in the grave, inshallah ta'ala. So continuing in this series called 30 Books in 30 Days, the book that I wanted to introduce to you today is called The Invocation of God. The Invocation of God by Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, rahimahullah ta'ala. This is a translation of a work written in the Arabic language by this famous scholar Ibn al-Qayyim, or Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, rahimahullah ta'ala, who I also spoke briefly about yesterday. He was the most famous student of Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah ta'ala. Ibn Taymiyyah died in the 8th century Hijri, and Ibn al-Qayyim also died in the 8th century Hijri. So this is a book that he wrote in the Arabic language. The title of the Arabic work is also written on the cover of this book. It's called Al-Wabil al-Sayyib min al-Kalim al-Tayyib. It was translated into English as The Invocation of God. It is one of the few works of Ibn al-Qayyim that is translated in its entirety in the English language. One of the few works of Ibn al-Qayyim that is translated in its entirety in the English language. It is not a very large work in size, but it is a very profound work, as I'll mention in just a few minutes, insha'Allah ta'ala. But Ibn al-Qayyim, he talks about this book of his in other books that he has written. And I just wanted to tell you what he had to say about his own book. So he says in his other work, Tariq al-Hijratain, he says, and we have mentioned in our book, Al-Wabil al-Sayyib, what the remembrance of God attracts to his servant. And we have mentioned nearly 100 benefits attached to the remembrance, each one unequaled. This is a book of great usefulness. In another one of his works, Madarij al-Salikin, he said, and we have mentioned nearly 100 benefits of remembrance in our book, Al-Wabil al-Sayyib, and we have mentioned therein the secrets of remembrance, its great usefulness, and the sweetness of its fruits. So basically the main subject of this book is the benefits of dhikr. The benefits of dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this life and in the next life. So this is a book that is a motivational book. It motivates you to have a wird in your life. It motivates you to have a regular regimen of litanies, of adhkar that you do to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. More than 100 benefits he mentions in here for the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, let me quickly read to you the table of contents so you get some more idea of what the book is about. So the translators have divided the book into 3 parts, or 4 parts. The first part is about the paths to happiness. The paths to happiness. The second part is a commentary on the hadith of Al-Harith al-Ash'ari. So commenting on this hadith, Ibn al-Qayyim talks about salah. He talks about the different degrees of salah, like different levels of salah that people pray. Some people just pray the movements, the motions, without understanding anything, without reflecting on anything. That's one level of the prayer. He talks about 5 levels of the prayer. And then he talks about the different kinds of hearts. And then after talking about prayer, he talks about fasting, he talks about charity, and then he talks about dhikr. And from there, he goes to part 3, in which he has the bulk of the book, which is the many benefits of dhikr. As he said, more than 100 benefits of dhikr. And then at the end of the book, he talks about 2 kinds of dhikr. 2 kinds of dhikr. So, one of the reasons also why this book is so beneficial is the style of writing that Ibn al-Qayyim has, rahimahullah ta'ala. It's very spiritual. It's very emotional. And it shows you a window into the personality of this great scholar, rahimahullah ta'ala, who is oftentimes presented as somebody who is against spirituality. Oftentimes him and his teacher Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah ta'ala, by certain segments of the Muslim community and Muslim scholarship, these ulama are presented as very anti-Islamic spirituality. And the reason is because they did have many writings in which they were very critical of the certain forms of tasawwuf, certain forms of Sufism that existed in their times. So because of their strong critique of those forms of tasawwuf, the impression that people get is that these 2 individual scholars were very anti-spiritual, very dry, very argumentative. But this book shows you a completely different side of Ibn al-Qayyim, and through him his teacher Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah ta'ala. And it shows that these were men who had a very deep sense of spirituality in the way that they lived, in the way that they thought, in the way that they worshipped, and in the way that they wrote, rahimahumullah ta'ala. He mentions many stories in this book about his teacher Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah ta'ala, as well. And so it is a book that helps us appreciate this great scholar of Islam, Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah ta'ala. And through this work, we also get a window into discussions about the nafs, discussions about salah, about fasting, about charity, purification of the heart. And really, it's very beautifully written work. And of course, it inspires you to, like I said, to have a wird, to be in dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more in your life. Also, the translation is very, very well done. It is one of the most beautiful translations of an Arabic work that I have ever seen, and I'm not exaggerating. These translators, they really did a beautiful job. You read the book and it's not like, the English is broken and, long sentences you have to read several times to make sense out of them. It's written very well, very beautifully, and not in some childish language, language that, you can appreciate as people who understand the English language, inshallah ta'ala. So, I'll put this here, inshallah, for those of you who would like to take a look at it. And this also falls in the genre of Tazkiyatun Nafs. So I've been talking for the past 2 days. Today is the 3rd book on Tazkiyatun Nafs. This book also falls in the category of Tazkiyatun Nafs, or cleansing the heart, purifying the soul. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us develop love for reading. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us develop love for reading. This is the ummah of Iqra. This is the ummah of reading. And it is a quality that the ummah has lost. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring it back. When we read works like this, we are living with these great ulama. We did not get to see them in our lives, but through their works we get to experience them. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala attach our hearts to reading and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala attach our hearts to the righteous, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among the righteous. Ameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallim wa barik ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.